Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. In today's episode, we are going to talk about more bad advice and how to properly research who you get advice from. So, what I've been seeing is when I'm, browsing the streets of LinkedIn, where it's supposed to be one of the social networks where it's a professional social network, right? Where you should be using that as opportunity to network, to advance your career, to learn different things. It's actually probably the best social media platform to advance your career. However, it seems like it's getting turned into the same type of platform that you'd see on a Twitter or a Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever the case may be, right? So looking through some of these posts, and those posts have the people who make these posts have tons and tons of followers, and they get tons and tons of likes. And some people that I am connected to, because the people that you'll be connected to, you'll see those likes come across, and you're like, So you read it because by that's the purpose of social networking, social media. When you like something, then it exposes it to the people in your network. So then I start reading the post and I'm like, this doesn't seem to be the best. This doesn't seem to be the best route to go if you are trying to advance your career, So I'm like, I wouldn't recommend somebody trying this if they're trying to advance their career, they're trying to maybe transition into a new field, if they are trying to, grow, whatever the case may be, because you might be at a certain level and you want to move up. But then you read this quote unquote advice by people who have tons and tons of followers and connections and things like that. And you're like, maybe this is what I should do. Right. So I just want to take one. I just want to highlight one, right? I'm not going to share who posted it or anything like that. That's not really important. The most important part is what is being communicated and the sentiment of people who, you know, it, when you read something and it puts a thought or idea into your mind, and if you happen to, now you might actually do it, and that might be what causes you from not getting to the other side, from from crossing the finish line, right? So let's read this real quick, right? So this post was like a scenario based, right? So let's pull it up here. All right, so I'm just gonna read it. It says, the interviewer says, "So tell me about yourself." The candidate checks their notes and clears her throat and says, well, blah, blah, blah. Rehearse elevator speech, yada, yada, yada. Do you mind if I ask you a question? The interviewer says, sure. Candidate says, why would I want to work here? The interviewer says, well, check notes. That's a good question. We have pizza and trivia night every Wednesday. Maybe we should check with HR and circle back to you. The candidate, that's fine. Will there be any other lame questions today, or can we dig into my qualifications for the role and why I would be a productive employee for the company? All right. So that is the post, right? And reading some of the analytics of the post, 37 comments, 3 reposts, and 95 reactions to it with thumbs ups, hearts, laugh, all this nonsense, right? And here's the thing, right? Some of the stuff that make us feel the best are the worst for us. They put us in a position to lose. Me, I I believe you always want to be in the best position to win. Maybe if you got it like that, you're the most talented, you're the smartest, whatever the case, and you want to employ that strategy where you go into an interview and you're telling the interviewers that their questions are lame and all that type of stuff. By all means, go for it. If you think you can land the job regardless, by all means, go for it, right? But the majority of people, right, who have these open to work banners on their LinkedIn, I would highly recommend you don't do that, right? Because you're open to work for a reason, and you're trying to land a new position, whatever the case may be. Like maybe you just came from a boot camp, right? And you're trying to transition into another field. And if you're barely getting interviews in the first place, and now you finally get an interview and you are answering with that level of arrogance, right? So I'll tell you, for me, right? If I'm in an interview, and because pretty much all interviews start with like, hey, so tell me about yourself so I can like figure out some more about you, stuff that I don't have, especially on the resume, or maybe describe some more of like the key points of your resume so we can have an avenue to go down, right? But if the reaction I get is fluff and why do I want to work here? Well, that's a question for you. Why do you want to work here? Right? Because by all means, I can answer that question of why you would want to work at whatever position I'm interviewing you for, right? And based on that question, I might just answer you articulately, right? I might answer you, and then the interview might be over. You see what I mean? Like you, the problem with this terrible advice is there's so many different jobs that are out there, right? So if you're applying for some low level job that doesn't have much significance to your career, and you ask that, sure, by all means, right. But if it's a pretty important, maybe in the tech industry and stuff like that, and you this type of answer that you're giving, it I'm going to say most likely it's not going to work out well for you. See, and this is the problem, right? We like to take the advice that makes us feel good instead of the advice that is going to be the most beneficial for our future. See, I do not care about my feelings. I care about my results. Simple as that. It's nothing matters but the results. One of the Q&A videos that are coming out soon, from one of the live streams, it was a question like, how do you deal with conflict within a team, like maybe between the developers and the QA, or the QA and the PO, developers and the PO, whatever, right? And the thought was, um, keep the conflict to a minimum, because the only thing that matters is the results, the customer satisfaction. Are you making the customers happy? Are they happy to use your product? Cool. Then we can figure everything else out. Compromise, strategize, etc. Have a plan to win. That's the goal, to win. Like, why do we let our emotions always get the best of us? And then here's the thing. Maybe I'm cynical. Maybe it's my analytical brain. Maybe it's the way that I've been doing QA for the past 15 years. Been involved in code for the past 20 plus years, right? I I don't I don't believe anything I see at first sight. Nothing. I don't believe anything I see at first sight. I always have to do the research, right? Especially about people. So if you're telling me something about like your personal life and, oh, you did this on the weekend or whatever, cool, that's fine. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to dig that deep into it, but if you're telling me something about that's going to affect me personally and the way that I move and my future and my career, my family, then I'm going to do very extensive research in the source of the information. And if the source is based on your feelings, or you trying to expand your social network and how cool you sound, then I'm going to be like, I want data. How many people have employed this and did it work? Like I like I said in the previous videos, right? It's a process. It is a strategic process from the from when you first submit your resume to how you show up in the interview to the things that you say to the questions that you ask. It's a strategy. So if you show up and you have that level of arrogance, right? Because I always hear the battle like, oh, what's the difference between arrogance and confidence? So this could be a difference, right? Because if you're showing up, you are looking to for a position, but instead of answering the interviewer's question, you're trying to like display a point. Like first you ask like, why would I want to work here? Well, you applied for the position. Why do you want to work here? That's how I see it. Right? Why did you apply for this position if you don't know why you want to work here? So based off the question, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now you're going to fluff and why do I want to why would I want to work here? Well, and then here's the thing, right? This is such like the answer that is given about like the interview answer because we have pizza and trivia night every Wednesday. Who gives that answer? As an interviewer, who gives that answer? See, if you ask me, I can give you point by point by point on why you would want to work here and the benefits of taking a particular position, right? Especially like if I'm investing my time for the company to interview you. Because guess what? I have to go give feedback. And if I'm in the interview process, then it plays a heavy role, right? It weighs a lot. So if you are not quote unquote playing along, right? I don't know you. I have maybe 30 minutes to talk to you to find out if I'm going to move you along or not. And the answer that I get, because now if I give you a bulleted list of why you want to work here, are you then going to answer, will there be any other lame questions today? Or can we dig into my qualifications for the role? Me asking you, tell me about yourself, is me asking you about your qualifications for the role. It's me asking, why would you be a productive employee for the company? See, what you guys fail to realize, every single question you get asked in an interview matters. It's weighed. There are so many things that are being evaluated from from the time that you show up to the interview, right? Do you show up on time? Can you articulate yourself? How do you answer the questions? Do you communicate well? Are you easy to get along with? So we're evaluating your technical skills, your social skills, your inner dynamic skills, the questions that you ask, everything is being evaluated. You're technically under a microscope. It's a conversation, but it's a conversation under a microscope to see, hey, I have this short amount of time to figure out, is this somebody that we can work with or not? And we're not even going to go into the posts that say, oh, interview process should be like, it should be quick. It should be one step, like one interview and you're done. I don't know. I don't understand it. Like, I understand why the interview process can be pretty lengthy. Because one, interviewing is hiring is very, very expensive to an organization, right? So they try to make the right decision. You know what sucks the most is you spend countless amount of money because why does interviewing cost so much, right? You have the recruiters in the process. The recruiters are spending countless amount of times going through interviews, contacting people, all this stuff, right? And then, not to mention the people who go through the interview process, and then they're about to get an offer made to them, and they end up accepting another position, which that's money lost to the company, right? And then you have the different people that you actually go through the interview that you interview for, right? So you're interviewing these people, and there's only like maybe one or two, depending on the company, how many positions they're hiring for that role, right? Usually it's one, might be two, but you're going through countless interviews, countless to finally figure out who's that person that you're going to choose, right? So you're taking the time of, depending on the company, if it's a tech company, you're going through the time of the hiring managers, the developers, whoever is involved in the process, right? Maybe it could be, depending on the position, it could be scrum masters, could be product owners, could be QA, could be DevOps, whatever the case may be. That's like, but all those people, they get paid a lot of money to do their job. And then they also they also participate in the hiring process, which is taking away from their actual job, which costs the company money. So now the worst thing that ends up happening is you go and you make a decision to hire somebody, right? And then they don't even last for like 5 months. They don't last. Either they couldn't keep up with the work, or they go somewhere else. They leave, right? For whatever so reason, right? But to me, that's one of the worst things to go through because you spent all that time, all those resources, all that money to make a decision to hire somebody, and then they don't pan out. And that's why I can understand why the hiring process can be multiple steps, because you want multiple people to sign off on it saying yes, 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 instead of just one and done. Now, when it's one and done, who knows what comes after that, right? And in the long process, you might end up losing some people. You might have a really good candidate that, someone along the way didn't like and you miss out. But the trade-offs of getting the wrong person multiple times versus maybe missing out on one or two people sometimes, it's a calculated risk. And that's why when we get this advice of if you BS your way through the question about tell me about yourself, and then to follow up with with the BS, you say why would I want to work here? Maybe you don't. Okay, maybe we can end the interview right now. And you can go to your next interview or keep applying, waiting, and we move on to the next candidate. You may think that it is hard to land a job. It's also hard to hire for a position because companies want the right candidates. The same way that you evaluate whether you want a job, you might have a long list of requirements. Companies have a long list of requirements too, and we're looking for the match. So the key point, right? After avoiding the advice that makes you feel good, but it's actually the worst for you, right? How much research do you do into the people who are giving you this advice? What are their credentials? How many people with that advice have they helped get hired? I would want a list. I would want analytics on people who have said in an interview, why would I want to work here and successfully get hired? I'd want a list to know how many interviewers have replied that they have pizza and trivia night every Wednesday and they can't actually answer that question of why would you want to work here? Because I can tell you, if I'm interviewing you, I can give you a full detailed breakdown list of why you would want to work for the company that I'm interviewing for and with me. But after I give you that, that might be the end of, like, that might be it. I think I'd be glad to answer that question, but I don't know how much further that interview might go. I don't know. But here's a question to you, right? Here's my question to you. Is this how you want to market yourself? Is this how you want to market yourself? You want to grow, you want to expand? Are you playing to feel good? Or are you playing to win? I always want to win. That's me. I always want to win. So here's my strategy, right? Whenever I read something and it initially makes me feel good, I go back and question it. I'm like, if this is making me feel good, I have to do some research on it to see why is it making me feel good? Is it valid? Let me look at the stats. Let me look at the facts. Let me do QA on it, right? As a friend of mine calls it, let me do counter intel. Let me see if this is valid. And 99% of the times, it's not. It's BS. The way you feel initially is usually not the route to go. All right? So think clearly about who you get your advice from. Do your research. Find out about them. Don't just because they have a lot of followers and they have a lot of, especially on LinkedIn, right? Especially on LinkedIn. You gotta research you gotta research it. The number one goal is to grow your career, make more money, learn new stuff, and win. And win. It's not about your feelings. It's about your success. All right? On that note, that is our candid conversation for today. We'll be back again next week with another one. All right? But until next time, my friends, my family, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.
Enigmatic Joker.